This little boy survives a car crash that kills both his parents. Shaken and furious, he lashes out at everyone, refusing food, medicine, and even the gentlest attempts to comfort him. Only at the sight of the affectionate Nazli, Bulut's walls begin to crack. He takes a bite of the cookie she bakes and leans into her arms, crying that he no longer has a mom or dad. Nazli's heart breaks for him, but there's only so much she can do. When discharged from the hospital, his uncle Ferit takes the boy to his villa. One by one, chefs and housekeepers come and go, but Bulut refuses to eat. He slumps on the couch all day, staring blankly into space. When Ferit asks why, the boy quietly says he only wants to eat the food Nazli makes. This puts Ferit in a difficult position. Just days ago, he had accused Nazli of being a gold digger and told her to stop trying to seduce him. Nazli, humiliated and furious, had quit on the spot, vowing never to see him again. Now, Ferit has no choice but to swallow his pride and ask her to work for him again as a cook. But Nazli can't get over his insults and refuses to even speak to him. Then she sees Bulut, limping, but determined, showing up just to see her. Her heart melts. Not wanting to let Bulut down, Nazli buries the hatchet with Ferit and agrees to return to work. Ferit explains that he has been very busy with work and will be back late. So he asks Nazli to move into his villa, to take care of Bulut and help him heal. When the little one hears that Nazli has agreed to stay by his side, he lights up with joy. Even the way he looks at his uncle changes, less resentment and a glimmer of hope. However, not everyone cares for this poor little boy. To these two people, this orphan is nothing more than a tool for profit. Hakan barges into Ferit's office and says provocatively that he and his wife are going to apply for custody of the boy. But behind his arrogant smile hides a calculated scheme. The lawyer told him that Bulut's late parents own 48% of the company's shares. Whoever gains custody of the boy gains control over the company, and as Bulut's biological aunt, Hakan's wife Demet has a legitimate claim to apply for guardianship. Looking at the smug Hakan, Ferit can barely resist the urge to wring his neck. Bulut is already 7, and these people have never once shown up, let alone offered a shred of care. And now, they have the nerve to fight for custody. Ferit sees right through them. This isn't about love. It's about controlling the company's shares. Meanwhile, Nazli is taking Bulut home from his physical therapy session. On the way, the boy asks if they can go to Uncle Dennis' house to play. Nazli gives Dennis a quick call, and he eagerly welcomes them over. He then calls his sister Demet and invites her to come meet her nephew. After all, just one day after the boy's father died, the estranged siblings had Saturday together in quiet reflection. Demet spoke of regret, how she had missed Bulut's entire childhood, and how she hoped to be a part of his life from now on. Denise believed every word, never suspecting the true reason behind her sudden interest. And Bulut doesn't either. He's only ever heard that his father had a sister living abroad, but he's never seen her until today. Now, as Demet beams at him with warmth and affection, his curiosity grows. She plays games with him, wins him over with ease, and even earns a kiss on the cheek. Just then, Ferit calls Nazli and asks to speak with Bulut. The little boy, full of excitement, tells him that the aunt he's never met before has come to visit. Ferit tenses up the moment he hears it. He orders Nazli to take Bulut home immediately, no questions asked. Nazli is confused, unable to understand why he's suddenly so angry. By the pool, Ferit warns her never to take the boy out again, and demands constant updates about what they're doing. Nazli pushes back, arguing that this kind of confinement is harmful to Bulut's mental health. Ferit is the kind of man who keeps his thoughts locked behind a wall. He never opens up, never explains. True to form, he throws off his robe and dives into the pool, sending a splash that hits her face, cutting the argument short. Later that night, Bulut's sobbing wakes them up. He cries for his parents, the grief too heavy to hold back. Watching the boy break down, both adults feel their hearts ache. Ferit lies awake, silently swearing to protect his nephew at all costs, no matter what. The next morning, he surprises Nazli by apologizing. He admits he shouldn't have lashed out at her, and for once tries to explain himself. Demet's not here out of love. She wants custody because that gives her control over the company. That's why the safest place for Bulut is here at home with you. Hearing that her sister is living and working in a rich man's house, the vain Azaman drops by, hoping to sniff out a way to profit. Nazli remains unaware of her sister's intentions. She simply warns her not to come again. Her boss doesn't like uninvited guests wandering around the house. Elsewhere, Hakan reminds his wife, "You should go see your nephew. Keeping close to him is the key to winning custody." Once Ferit leaves for work, Demet arrives at the villa, gifts in hand, eager to visit her nephew. Nazli tries to stop her at the door, but with no real authority, she can't stand in her way. Bilu lights up at the sight of the boomerang Demet brings and begs her to stay and play. Asaman takes this opportunity to promote herself to Demet, subtly hinting that she's looking for a job. Just then, Ferit returns to fetch a document. The moment he sees Demet, his face turns cold. She doesn't argue, she knows better, and quietly takes her leave. In the kitchen, Ferit lashes out at Nazli for letting Demet in. With the court hearing fast approaching, he warns her not to show any softness. But Nazli is just a cook. What power does she have to block the boy's aunt outside? Their argument leaves both of them fuming. That evening, while Nazli begins preparing dinner, Asuman lingers in the living room, eyeing Ferit and his cousin as they chat. From their conversation, she picks up on a crucial detail. The document Ferit holds may influence the trial outcome. Later, Bulut calls Ferit and his cousin outside to play. Nazli steps upstairs to take a phone call, and Asuman sneaks into the living room. She takes out her phone and secretly photographs the document. And it is this very act that causes Ferit to lose the first round in court. It turns out the paper is a stock transfer agreement, signed by Bulut's dad the day before he died. Years ago, when Demet insisted on marrying Hakan, their father was so enraged that he kicked her out of the family. Bulut's father felt sorry for his sister, so he signed a private agreement to give his 5% share to his sister, entrusting the document to Ferit. But Ferit's cousin had advised him not to reveal the document. Doing so would bring Demet and Hakan into the company. The cousin didn't want to see Hakan's villainous face parading around the office every day. In court, Ferit is shocked to see the photo of the share transfer agreement appear in the opposing side's evidence. He has no idea how it was leaked. Demet's lawyer seizes the moment, accusing Ferit of withholding the document and misleading the judge. He argues that unlike Ferit, a single man, Demet and Hakan can provide a complete family environment for the child. Due to insufficient evidence, the judge postpones the second hearing. In the meantime, custody of Bulut and temporary control over his parents' shares are granted to Demet. The verdict crushes Bulut. He breaks down in tears, unwilling to leave Uncle Ferit and Nazli. Ferit has no choice. He must follow the court's ruling and hand his nephew over to Demet. She welcomes them with a bright smile, playing the role of a loving aunt. But the little boy turns his head away in anger. He wants nothing to do with her. Ferit tells him that he has some things to handle and won't be able to stay, but promises he'll come back for him soon, and that he'll never be left behind. Only then does Bulut manage a smile and give his beloved uncle a big hug before reluctantly stepping into the unfamiliar mansion. Ferit then begins investigating the leak. But everyone with access to the document has signed strict confidentiality agreements. No one would risk such a violation. He knows Hakan must have used some dirty trick, and unless he finds proof before the next hearing, there's no way he'll win back custody. And as if that pressure isn't enough, another storm hits. Hakan and Demet swagger into Ferit's company like they own the place. Hakan waves the share agreement in his hand, smirking as he declares, "I own 48% of this company now. I'll come and go as I please, and you have no right to stop me." Ferit seethes with rage, but there's nothing he can do. That evening, Nazli comes home to a surprise. Her sister has bought matching clothes for her and her best friend. Asaman claims she won the lottery and just wanted to thank them for always taking care of her. Nazli is touched, thinking her sister is finally growing up and becoming thoughtful. What she doesn't know is that the money comes from the one thing she despises most. It turns out Asaman secretly took a photo of Bulut's father's share transfer agreement and sold it to Demet. With the cash in hand, she wastes no time indulging herself, shopping and splurging with friends, without the slightest sense of guilt. Meanwhile, Bulut is far from happy at his aunt's house. He complains loudly about the strict maids who won't let him watch TV or play video games, insisting none of them can hold a candle to Nazli. Frustrated, Demet storms downstairs to vent to her husband. To them, Bulut is nothing more than a tool, a means to gain control, not a child to be cared for. They don't care what he wants, only that he stays quiet and obedient. Soon after, Demet uses the boy as an excuse to invite Nazli over. She says she's gone through several nannies, but Bulut refuses them all. He only wants Nazli. So she asks Nazli to come and work with her. Nazli is very torn. She doesn't want to betray Ferit, but she loves Bulut and wants to make his life better and get well soon. In the end, she tells Demet she needs some time to think it over. The next morning, Nazli hears Asaman's alarm going off non-stop, but her sister won't get up. When Nazli picks up her phone to silence it, she accidentally sees the photo of the share transfer agreement. Nazli is devastated. She breaks down in tears and confides in her best friend, furious that her sister could do something so shameless. Asaman's actions have indirectly forced Bulut to leave the uncle he loves and live with two greedy strangers. How could she ever have the heart to face that innocent boy again? Shamed by her sister's outburst, Asaman finally lowers her head in silence. After the tears have dried, Nazli calls Demet and flatly refuses the job. Demet is caught off guard by the sudden change and tries to twist the truth, telling Bulut that Nazli no longer wants to care for him. Thankfully, Dennis is there to speak up, telling Bulut that Nazli has always loved him, and that's what keeps the boy from being swayed. Later, Dennis texts Ferit to let him know that Nazli turned down Demet's offer. Ferit's lips curl into a quiet, knowing smile. Her integrity reassures him, and his opinion of her only continues to rise. A few hours later, Nazli arrives at Ferit's company, intending to confess what her sister has done. But Ferit happens to be heading out, so he asks her to wait for him in his office. Not long after, he returns and tells his assistant to track down the person who took the leaked photo. He swears the spy will rot in prison. Nazli stiffens with fear, terrified that he might hurt her sister. Torn between doing what's right and protecting her own blood, she says nothing. Ferit doesn't notice her unease. He gently takes her hand and thanks her for refusing Demet's offer. It gives him strength, knowing he's not fighting this alone. He tells her she's a good person, and promises to bring Bulut back soon so they can be together again. Guilt-stricken Nazli pulls out her hand and runs away from the office on the pretext that she has something to do. A day later, the secretary brings good news to Ferit. The court has granted access to the original photo. Once processed, it will reveal the exact time and location it was taken. Results expected by tomorrow. In the evening, while Ferit is drinking coffee at home, Nazli unexpectedly comes over. She had left her phone charging at work during the day and forgot to take it with her. Just as she's about to leave, Ferit invites her to stay for a cup of coffee. When a boss this handsome asks you directly, how could Nazli possibly refuse? Under the soft moonlight, the two chat casually. Ferit asks about her interests and listens as she speaks passionately for nearly half an hour. He's not the least bit bored. In fact, he says he admires people who have things they truly love. Nazli is quietly thrilled, but what truly makes her heart flutter is the way he looks at her, so different from his usual cold, guarded gaze. Just as the distance between them begins to melt, a phone call cuts through the moment. It's from Demet. On the other end, Bulut's voice trembles as he cries out, "I need Nazli." It turns out that the little one had just fallen off a toy. Seeing Bulut's leg injury, Ferit scolds Demet that if you can't take care of the child, you shouldn't have fought for the custody. But Demet snaps back, arguing that it's just a minor scrape, and there's no need to make such a big deal out of it. Their argument spills into the hallway. Demet suddenly turns the conversation around. Why did Nazli answer her call, but Ferit showed up with her? Have you two been together all along? Ferit gets angry and says it's none of her business, that she's still the same as she was back then, just a naughty, childish little girl, incapable of taking care of a child. It's only when Hakan shows up that the argument stops. Ferit warns them both that if anything happens to Bulut, I will make you pay. On the way home, Nazli gently urges him to take a break. If work at the office drains you this much, maybe you should work from home for a few days. The company takes your peace away, but your home, it gives it back. To her surprise, when she arrives at the villa the next morning, Ferit is still there. He really took her advice and stayed home. He even seems in the mood to plan a brand new menu. But this puts Nazli in a difficult position. She always shops exactly to order, nothing extra. With so many new dishes added, there's simply not enough in the kitchen to make them. To her shock, Ferit offers to go grocery shopping with her, dropping his usual pride for once. Now a millionaire turned errand boy, Ferit silently trails behind Nazli as she fusses over every fruit and vegetable at the market. His patience wears thin. He simply can't understand why she refuses to just shop at a supermarket. Nazli tells him that cooking is not easy. Supermarket produce lacks freshness and soul. Her words open his eyes to a world far removed from his luxury boardrooms and tailored suits. Watching their boss obediently follow a carefree chef, the secretary and cousin are completely dumbfounded. Since when has their no-nonsense CEO become a sous chef? And worse, seemed happy about it. The secretary informs Ferit that the tech department has made progress analyzing the leaked photo. They'll have answers as soon as they call in. Nazli overhears this as she brings over their coffee and hesitantly asks if it's really possible to trace the photographer. The cousin nods. Yes. GPS data embedded in the image can reveal where and when the photo was taken, and even whose phone it was. After hearing it, Nazli goes pale. Her knees weaken, and she stumbles, collapsing onto the grass. Ferit panics and rushes over, lifting her onto the sofa. A few minutes later, Nazli slowly comes to and gently stops Ferit from calling a doctor. She insists she's fine, just skipped breakfast, and her low blood sugar got the better of her. Relieved, the secretary steps aside to call the tech team for answers, but no one picks up. Meanwhile, Nazli retreats to the kitchen and frantically calls her best friend, asking what she should do. Her friend tells her to stop tearing herself apart. If they find out the location and time of the photo, they'll trace it straight to your sister. There's no hiding it. Cornered and distraught, Nazli finally makes up her mind to confess everything to Ferit. But just as she opens her mouth, the secretary interrupts. She's finally reached the tech department. Over the speaker, the technician explains that all metadata from the photos has been wiped. They can only determine the phone model used, nothing more. Nazli breathes a quiet sigh of relief. In the end, she chooses to stay silent, because no matter what, she still wants to protect her sister. That day, Ferit summons Hakan and Demet to his office, a move that instantly raises eyebrows. He's always refused to let them set foot in the company, yet now he's the one inviting them in. What exactly is he up to? Ferit explains that Bulut's birthday is just 2 days away, and the boy deserves to spend it surrounded by the people who truly matter. So Ferit intends to take Bulut to his maternal grandmother's house to celebrate with his late mother's side of the family. Demet immediately disagrees and says he can see Bulut, but only at her house. Neither is willing to back down, and tensions rise. Surprisingly, Hakan steps in as the peacemaker. He agrees to let Bulut go his grandmother's house and tells Demet they shouldn't inflict emotional harm on a child. Turning to Ferit, he adds with self-satisfaction, "See how fair I'm being. I hope you can be just as fair." Back at home, Demet shares the news with Bulut. The boy beams with joy and, for the first time in a long while, wraps his arms around her. Seizing the moment, Demet leans into his affection, eager to win his heart and boost her favorability. On the day of his 8th birthday, Bulut's grandmother is overwhelmed with emotion when she finally sees her grandson again. The boy gently comforts her. "Don't cry, Grandma. Uncle Ferit will come pick me up soon." His quiet resilience and tenderness only deepen her heartache. Why must the feuds between adults leave scars on a child so innocent? In this rare moment of calm, Ferit opens up to Nazli. He speaks about his sister, the pain of losing her, the weight he carries every day. Only now does Nazli realize that beneath his stoic shell lies a man filled with grief and loyalty. He's exhausted, yet he can't afford to collapse, because so many people still depend on him. But peace lasts less than an hour. Demet and Hakan arrive at the party uninvited. Ferit gets angry and asks Hakan why he came uninvited. With smug arrogance, Hakan replies, "Demet is his aunt. We can come whenever we want." Ferit's mother steps in, trying to cool tempers. She reminds them all that this is Bulut's birthday, one day of happiness, and asks them not to spoil it. When the birthday cake is finally brought out, the little boy makes a simple wish. He just wants to see his mom and dad again, even if only in a dream. The room falls silent. Everyone's heart sinks. Their smiles fade into sorrowful stillness, except Hakan, whose face remains unmoved. After the party, while Ferit is on the phone, Demet suddenly approaches him with a soft smile, saying the place looks beautiful. It reminds her of where they once exchanged engagement rings. "If you hadn't broken things off back then," she says wistfully, Maybe we'd be Bulut's parents now. Ferit doesn't entertain the memory and just coldly says, let's not talk about the past. I want you and your husband to leave this place and stay away from my family. If you dare try anything underhanded again, I promise you'll pay the price. Ignoring her pleas, he turns and walks away. However, Hakan has been lurking behind the bushes, eavesdropping on every word. Hearing his wife being rejected, disgraced by her ex, sends him into a rage. He calls his henchman and viciously says that the accident you arranged for Bulut's parents. Tomorrow, I want you to do the same to Ferit. Luckily, Demet comes up from behind and overhears everything. Pale with shock, she rushes to stop her husband. I only ran into Ferit by chance. Those words, I only said them to provoke him. Whatever I had with him is long over. Please, don't let your jealousy ruin what we have now. Meanwhile, the henchman is already crouched by Ferit's car, about to cut the brake line, when Hakan suddenly calls, telling him to abort the mission. Thanks to Demet's intervention, tragedy is narrowly avoided. Otherwise, just like Bulut's parents, the three people now sitting safely in the car, laughing and talking, might not have lived to see this moment. This is Maroon Recap. Check out my homepage, and you'll see more recaps of Full Moon. I'm hastening to write and edit the next recap, so feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.